tonight's agenda, and the other is a one-page summary of how we run these meetings. You're free now to come forward and get one of each if you'd like. We're going to begin in a couple of seconds.
Microphones. Yours didn't go on.
Mine didn't.
Other side.
There we go. I'll get the hang of it. It's only been 15 years.
Right, exactly.
Okay?
No,
In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the town hall at 7 p.m. on Monday, July 15, 2019.
They took everything, her papers were all missing, so she had to go downstairs and
Yeah.
get it.
We're going to wait for our secretary to come back to take the roll.
My tape's holding up.
wood grain tape.
Burlap. It was that or zebra. Mary wanted me to get the zebra, but I didn't.
Not so bad.
Not so bad.
It's sweet.
We're ready for the roll call.
Mary McNabb,
Here.
Gio DeSharma,
Here.
Joyce Siegel,
Here.
Wolfgang Torres,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jessica Platt,
Here.
Chairman Joseph Steiner.
Here. All right, a couple of things before we begin tonight. First of all, I want to poll the members of the zoning board who are here about your availability on the two August dates. Is there anyone who knows already that they cannot be here on Monday, August the 5th? Joy,
Yeah, I think, I won't be.
Jody and Joy will not be here, and you won't be here. Okay, so do you want to make a note of that? And then we have the 19th, August the 19th.
I will not be here on the 19th.
Jessica will not be here. on the
And neither will Kevin.
And that's right, and Kevin won't either.
And I sent a text to Steve asking him if he knows if he'll be able to attend August 5th and August 19th, but I haven't gotten a reply yet. I know he's
Well,
on
he'll
train.
be,
Yeah,
he'll be
coming.
here momentarily. One of our members is held up on a train that's late, but hopefully he'll show up in the next few minutes. I just have a word for the board members. You're probably asking yourselves, why do we have a case on the agenda tonight where the primary relief being sought is the approval of a site plan? And at the next meeting, on August the 3rd, August the 5th, we have a case where the primary relief sought is a subdivision. Now, generally speaking, site plans for commercial properties and subdivisions are heard by the planning board, not by the zoning board. But the caveat is that the planning board can never act on any application that includes a variance under one of the D subsections, D1 through D6. And in both of these instances, the planning board cannot hear the case because the one that's before us tonight, which is the second time they're here, the Fidelco matter, is primarily a site plan application, but there is a use variance for a use prohibited in the zone.
And C variance relief as well.
And C variances, of course. Now, planning boards can hear cases of subdivisions and site plans where there are C variances, but never where there's a D variance. And the case that we're hearing on August the 5th, which is the Romano case, that involves D variances as well. In both, it's a subdivision case, but in both of the subdivided lots, if the relief were to be granted, there is a floor area ratio variance that's also required, and that is one of the 6 D variances. So that's just a sidebar to the members of the board. Those of you who have been to your training sessions already have probably heard that and know it, but you may not have. You have 18 months after you join the board in order to go to one of these training sessions. So I thought it would be just useful to remind people why they're being asked to sit on 2 cases that normally would be planning board cases. Okay, now we have 2 sets of minutes tonight. We're reapproving the minutes of May the 20th, and I think all of you have received from Eileen the changes that she's made in those minutes. Anybody have any?
I did receive a few minor corrections from there.
Put
so
them on the
I'll put
record.
them back. Page 12, line 508, the word in addition, 8 parking variances required. On line 519, the space is proposed to be used as an office. Page 13, line 557, the addition has been designed so as to have minimal impact on surrounding properties and to be in size and scale with other dwellings in the surrounding neighborhood.
So the word "and" was added.
And also other dwellings in the surrounding neighborhood was added. Page 14, line 594, the word "floor" was changed to "levels." Page line 609, the word "location" was changed to "site." Page line 611, members was added after staff. And line 635, that scenario is no longer viable for today's medical professionals. Changed from there. And that was the extent of Mary's contributions.
Does anyone else have any additions or corrections to the minutes of May the 20th? If not, is there a motion to reapprove? Let the record show that Steve Tugger is here now as of 12 minutes after 7. Thank you, Steve. You've had a tough time, I'm sure. Thank you for showing up.
Sure, of course.
Okay, Steve, I did ask, well, let's finish these minutes. With those additional corrections from Mary McNatt, are there any other additional corrections or additions to the minutes of May the 20th? If not, is there a motion to adopt those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes of May the 20th have been re-approved as corrected. Now, the next and final set of minutes are the minutes of the meeting of June the 3rd, 2019. I think, Mary, you submitted changes on those.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, I don't feel on
You want to put them on the record, please?
On page 8, line 317, he outlined the applicant's proposal. Line 324, it's proposed to add a driveway in the front and construct a new garage under the existing porch. Line 343, instead of the proposed construction, she testified that the proposed construction. Page 10, line 413, several board members felt there were some inaccurate calculations and they were concerned. Line 416, some members were concerned about potential negative impact. And then on line-
About what, I'm sorry?
the potential negative
potential
impact.
negative impact.
Negative.
Line 433 and 434, there's the applicants for. And that's it.
Any other additions or corrections to the minutes of June the 3rd? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The-
Yeah.
Oh, I can't second it.
You can't second the minutes.
Second it,
All right, so is there another person who will second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of June the 3rd, 2019 are also approved. Now, we have tonight,
Go back and ask Steve about his availability.
Yeah.
Oh,
The fifth is
yes.
the fifth is a yes, the 19th I'm checking on.
okay,
Yes, you will be here on the 5th?
Yes,
19th you,
I'm checking on that right now.
Okay.
oh, okay,
Checking with the boss.
okay, you'll let us know,
Yeah.
okay. After you hear from the boss,
Yeah.
okay. We all know what that means. Okay, we have a ton of memorializations tonight, more than at any meeting since I've been associated with this board, which is, believe it or not, in excess of 15 years now. Okay, I want, before we take these up one at a time, to thank Mary McNatt and Joy Siegel, who served with me as a subcommittee to work with our attorney Gail Fraser, who is seated to my right, to make sure that the memorializations are as perfect as they can possibly be. I'm particularly indebted to Mary and Joy this month for this meeting because I've been away the last 2 weeks and I was unable to function as a member of the subcommittee. So thank you both very much for pitching in and working with Gail to make these memorializations as airtight as possible. The first one, and I'll ask our secretary in each case to tell us who is eligible to vote on the resolutions and when. And if you are not eligible to vote, that means you're not eligible to make a motion or to second the motion. So let's start with the first one. Calendar 3673-19, Katie and Tyler Foster at 9 Cape Court. right, so that's 6 people. Will one of the 5 of you, assuming that nobody has any additional corrections or comments about the memorialization, will one of the 5 of you like to make a motion to adopt that memorializing resolution?
I'll make a motion to adopt calendar number 3673-19.
Is there a second from one
Second.
of the 5 of you?
Second?
Judy Sharma?
Yes.
Joyce Hill?
Yes.
Steve Tober?
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres?
Yes.
Jessica Black?
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg?
Yes. The second one is calendar 3678, Robert Redden and Zhao Zhang Li at 24 Rosedale Avenue.
Eligible are Mary Mazette, Judy Sharma, Joyce Siegel, Jessica Black, Joseph Steinberg.
All right, there are 4 people here eligible. Will one of the 3 of you whose names was called like to make a motion to adopt the memorializing resolution in calendar 3678-19?
Move calendar 3678-19 for approval.
Second?
Second?
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Judy Sharma?
Yes.
Joyce Siegel?
Yes.
Steve Tober?
Yes.
Jessica Black?
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg?
Yes. The third one is calendar 3681-19, Emily Chang and Paulo Capoferro, 353 Wyoming Avenue.
Eligible are Judy Sharma, Steve Tober, Wolfgang Torres, Jessica Black, Joseph Steinberg.
Any additions or corrections to calendar 3681-19? If not, will one of you whose names was called like to make a motion to adopt that memorializing resolution?
I move adoption of calendar 3681-19.
Second?
Second?
Is that Jessica?
Yeah.
Judy Sharma,
Yes.
Steve Tober,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Calendar 3689-19, Christoph and Allison Raybeau at 30 Southern Slope. Who's eligible here?
Everyone with the exception of Wolfgang.
Any additions or corrections? Is there a motion?
Move, move approval of calendar 3689-19.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Judy Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Tober,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. The fifth one, calendar 3693-19, Sarah Carruthers at 130 Hobart Avenue. Who's eligible here?
Everyone except Mary.
Any additions or corrections? Is there a motion?
Move approval of calendar 3693-19.
Second?
Second?
Judy Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Tober,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Calendar 3695-19, Rio Slavin at 75 Farley Road. Who's eligible here?
Everyone except Mary.
Any additions or corrections? Motion?
I move adoption of calendar 3695-19.
Second?
Second.
Judy Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Tober,
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Jessica Black,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Calendar 3696, C2, Education, 720 Morris Turnpike.
Wolfgang is the only one on which ones.
Motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve calendar number 3696-19.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Judy Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Tozer,
Yes?
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Calendar 3697-19, Kelly Solomon, 65 Westview Road. Who's eligible here? Same people?
God bless you.
Any additions or corrections? Motion?
Have approval of calendar 369719.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Jody Sherman.
Yes.
Joyce Hill,
Yes.
Steve Tozer,
Yes?
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. And the last one is calendar 3698-19, TCS Short Hills LLC.
Same people.
Same people. This is at 507 Millburn Avenue. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion?
Move approval of calendar 369819.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Jody Sherman,
Yes.
Joyce Hill,
Yes.
Steve Tozer,
Yes?
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. All right, we're now going to get into,
Steve heard from the boss.
Yeah. 5th is no good, 19th is good.
she reversed you. Unanimously.
Yes, as is
Okay.
so often the case.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mary.
Yes.
just a reminder that I'm recusing on one of those cases on the 5th.
On the 5th, yes.
Park Road, right?
Park Road. Now, who do we have, Eileen, who's not going to be here now on the 5th?
Jody, Joy, and Steve.
Do we know about Craig?
Is he
I
not?
don't know.
He's not here tonight.
Yes.
Only, no one told me about tonight. I couldn't get a family matter tonight.
Who, Craig?
Yeah. I didn't hear you.
We should find out from him.
I don't know if I have his cell phone.
Do you want me to ask? Do you want me to text him and see?
Out of state.
He's out of state. Yeah.
Well, I have his text number. You want me to send him a text message? To see if he's here on the 19th, because,
And the 5th, the 5th
And the
and
5th.
do you want me to
19th.
ask about both?
Right, please.
Okay, we'll see if
All
we
right,
hear from him.
we'll see if we hear from him. Okay. We're going to go into the applications now. The first application we're going to hear is a case that has been heard one evening previously. It's calendar 3686-19. Property location is 251/257 Essex Street. The applicant is Fidelco ROI LLC. And before we begin hearing the applications, I just want to say to those of you in the audience that if a matter comes up in which you have an interest, please feel free, when that matter is called, to come down to the front of the room. These microphones are basically recording microphones, not amplifying microphones. And people will set up exhibits. You can't see them from sitting in the back of the room or even in the middle of the room. This table to my right, down here in the front is empty tonight because one of our, that table is normally reserved for alternates. One of them is not with us tonight, and the other one is seated with the members of the, regular members of the board because of absences tonight. So that table is available. The entire first row to my left here is available. Feel free to just, when the case is called, to get up and come down and sit in the front so you can hear and see what's going on. All right, counsel?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thomas J. Satiri, S-A-T-E-A-R-Y, Lindaberry, McCormick, Esserbrook, and Cooper for the applicant. I've spoken this afternoon with Ms. Davitt about the number of voting members here tonight. As you're aware, we are requesting approval of 2 D variances. Since there are only 5 voting members who can rule on this application, Ms. Davitt and I discussed adjourning this matter until the August 19th date, and then in the interim have the members who were not at the May 20th meeting read the transcript of those meetings. So I'm asking that the matter be put on that date instead.
So you're not gonna go forward tonight?
Right.
But
So now what's gonna happen
that's
on
correct.
August 19th? Kevin Wenzel, who heard it, will not be here again. And Jessica, who also participated at the May meeting,
Yeah.
will not be here on the 19th. So that will mean that Jody and Steve will need to read the transcript. We can't provide you with a CD because that is the night the recording system malfunctioned. So we'll have to provide you with a hard copy transcript,
Sure. That's okay.
okay? And then you'll have 7, okay?
For the
On
August 19th meeting.
On the 19th.
Thank
Just be
you.
aware that it's not the same
Now,
7,
Who are the
Yes.
2 people who have to read the
I understand.
transcript?
Jody and Steve.
Will you both be able to read it before that date?
Yeah.
Okay.
When can we get it?
I don't know, Eric?
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 He's the man.
So it's the meeting from May 20th.
May 20th.
Well, but
And Eric, if you could provide that on a CD, maybe then they could each take a turn, putting it in their computer or something like that.
Reading is,
Or an
I sent-
email, can you send it a mini, if you send it in email, yeah, that's true. If you send it in an email, then she can circulate it to them and they can,
I don't think people use CDs anymore, yeah. I don't have a CD player anymore.
well, whatever.
what's the
I was
CD?
thinking they could put it in their computer, but they'd be able to do that if you send it as a PDF anyway.
Does the YouTube channel make them eligible or that? I know you have that.
That's a good question, but I went on there and the May 20th meeting
It is
is,
on there. I checked today.
did it just go on? Because I checked this morning when you told me the May 20th was not on there.
They're broken up. You have to put.
Send us the link.
Then send the link, yeah, we can hear that.
Well, I don't want to take any more time
Yeah.
to talk about it here. Will the 2 of you be in touch with Eileen?
Sure.
And the 3 of you can work out with Eric how we can get you a hard copy or some other.
An emailed
type-
version,
An emailed
something.
version or something.
Yeah,
So
that would
that-
be great.
Email
So that you can read it. So let me make a clear announcement of the adjournment tonight. The calendar number 3686-19 by Delco ROI LLC, property location 251-257 Essex Street, block 1207, lots 15 and 14. That matter will not be heard tonight. It is being carried to August the 19th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in this room here at the municipal building. Council,
Mr. Satiri, just to confirm, you did renotice, have you, for tonight? And have you provided Ms. Davitt with proof of service?
Yes.
Okay. So
No need to,
you won't have to renotice.
I understand. Okay,
You won't have to renotice unless
You
you
make another
come up
change.
with new variances.
this is it.
This
Okay.
is it, all right.
Thank you.
Just a word of assistance perhaps to you. There were a number of members, as I recall, the minutes of the meeting, I haven't listened to a tape of it, who had concerns about ingress and egress.
From the garage.
From the garage, from that proposed garage. And into both vehicular traffic
Right.
and pedestrian traffic. I also think it might be useful if there was another set of two drawings at least, I recall, that were submitted for this meeting. And I think it might be useful if a brief memo were submitted indicating what the differences are, particularly in connection with the site plan. The second site plan that was submitted has a revision date of 6/28/2019. It might be useful to board members. It would be useful to me, I know.
Okay.
I went over the two of them and tried to find the differences between the two with only limited success. Maybe that's because there's only a limited changes that have been made. But it might be useful if a memo was submitted to the board prior to the August 19th meeting,
Certainly, and you want,
indicating what the differences are to the,
Sure.
In the revision.
in not just ingress and egress, but the other changes they made too.
Any other
everything.
changes that
Okay.
were made.
And you did get the reports, the set of reports
From the
from the
professionals,
professionals?
at the first meeting, yes.
Right, okay.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay. We now are proceeding to the Jessica Shen case. Is there someone here?
Wolfgang's report.
Yes, I'm going to make that announcement. Are you
Hi.
Jessica Shen?
Yes, I am. Hi, good evening to the board members. Yes, I am. Jessica Shen.
All right, Jessica Shen, I have a comment for you. We have 6 members of the board seated here. You need 4 votes. Normally, we have a full board of 7, but because of absences tonight, we have only 6.
And we have a conflict of interest.
Pardon me?
Conflict of interest, he recused himself.
Yes, we have 1 member who recused tonight because he lives within 200 feet of the property. Now, why am I mentioning this to you? Because it should be obvious mathematically that it's easier to get 4 votes when there are 7 people as opposed to 4 votes when there are only 6 people. Now, the practice of this board over the last several years has been to give applicants an opportunity to seek to adjourn their matter if they feel that they are being inconvenienced or by the fact that they have only 6 members to convince to get the 4 votes. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, if you like, to either go forward tonight, knowing that there are only 6 of us here to hear your case, or to seek an adjournment. I can tell you pretty clearly that, and Eileen, am I correct, that both meetings in August are pretty much filled up? So you would be put off until September.
And it would be September 16th.
If in fact you don't want to proceed. If you want to proceed, tell me. and
I'd
we'll
like to proceed.
Fine.
To try my luck. May I just provide a little bit more information? Is it possible for just some
Do you have-
photos?
Do you have pictures?
Yes, pictures.
How many?
Just 3. So
Three different
no,
three
no,
different
for
pictures?
everybody. I have 12 sets, I believe.
Okay,
How many,
12
how many drawings, how many pictures?
3 pictures, but 12
Okay.
sets.
You please give one set to our secretary. Let me ask you a couple of questions about the pictures, then you can distribute them. Who took these pictures?
I did.
When?
Actually, 2 weeks ago. I actually went on vacation last week. I did it before vacation.
And do
it-
those pictures accurately
Yes.
describe and show the
Yes.
property as it exists today?
Yes, yes.
Okay, by the way, for you and for any other member of the public, you can assume that the board members have visited each one of these properties. Okay, now if you'd like to, we'll mark the set A1 for the record, and our secretary can mark them. And you can pass out, you just go to, give all the sets to Stephen, he'll pass them down. Did you retain a set?
No, no, but I know what it is.
take a step back.
Thank you.
And when you give your testimony, if you refer to these pictures, tell us which one you're referring to
Okay.
and what it shows.
Okay. Okay, this is second time I'm submitting the application. Actually, the main permit or variance was submitted last year. We're almost at the end of the project. So the first picture you'll see is actually what is property, the face looks like now. The purpose of this application is to relocate my portico in front of the house. You can see the door, actually what is now, it's
Is this the
offset.
picture
Yes, yes.
I'm
this
holding
is-
up,
yeah.
showing a board leading up to a doorway?
Yes, yes.
Fine, proceed.
Okay, so when I started the project, I was not planning to move the portico itself, and nor I was planning to move the doors. So if you can see the next 2 pictures, and those are taken in December when I was ready to fix up the doors. And basically, the door is completely destroyed, and the portico was also badly damaged by the dumpster, because we have the dumpster located in the front of the portico. So the second time when the driver delivered the dumpster, pretty much it hit the portico front, pretty much very heavily damaged. And when we take down the doors, the contractor also informed me the support of doors pretty much not existing, because they have not properly constructed the door. There's no barrier between the wood and concrete, if you can see the picture, and the door is pretty much need to reconstruct. So at that time, I made quickly decision, try to move the door to the center of the house without knowing what I have to do. So I submit the update into my framing. We also failed framing inspection, so I submit this as an update in my framing upgrade. And by then, Elaine was telling me, you can't do that, you have to do the zoning. As naive as I was, I don't really know all the terminology. When I heard zoning, I would just thought would be another department approving us, like electrician or plumbing. So I said, sure. And 2 months later, I came ask her, I said, I didn't hear anything. She said, well, you're not submitting anything. I was like, what do I need to submit? So now I have learned that these are the new process. By then, the portico, as you can see now, it's already in place. And that was also my mistake, because I didn't really make a connection. The portico was also approved at the time at what location. I was presented by the contractor every day old problems. So when they ready to do the siding, they were telling me, okay, we have to put a portico first. I said, sure. And then when I submit my update, and then tell me that you can't do that, and that was kind of too late. So I'm here to tell the member, I'm submitting this. As you can see, part of it's already mismatched. So it's really,
So the variance you seek, as I understand it, is a front yard setback variance.
yes,
The municipal ordinance requires that the building be set back 40 feet from the front property line.
correct.
And as I understand it, you only have about
33.
16.2 feet if this project is approved, from the front property line to the closest place on the portico.
Right, so at the first application, when I submitted, this was part of variance that was being approved. So I am only asking to move this portico 6 feet to the right. I'm not intruding any more to the street side as it is now. The only thing I'm asking the board, if I could enlarge by 1 feet, the current portico was 8 by 8. So what I try to do is try to build 8 by 9. It's 1 foot wider. But I'm perfectly okay if you say no, you can't do. I would just move the existing portico size by 6 feet, where try to locate to the center of the house. That is really what I'm asking.
Ask you a question. So, in this diagram here,
Yes,
the portico on this,
Yes.
is this where you want it to be, or this is where it was going to be?
this was what I want to be.
So where is it supposed to be?
It was
It was off-center.
off-center, yes.
Eileen, isn't the requested variance to allow a front yard setback of 23.8 feet?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I thought you said
No,
16.
but she only has 16 feet left, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about the deviation.
Yeah,
Okay. But the variance would be to permit a 23.8-foot setback.
Yes.
Okay.
And this was a pre-approved in the meeting, so I'm trying to just relocate it 6 feet to the right.
Yeah, it seems like this was just a design mistake, that you went back and looked at it and said, oh, wait a minute, this door should be in the middle of the center of the house, not off-center.
Right, but at the beginning of the project, I was not trying to do this, I was just trying to fix the door. I
Right.
wasn't trying to do the whole thing. But when the house being remodeling, we find so many issues, and this is one of the issues. Since I have to rebuild entire front door, that's what my contractor is telling me. So I'm thinking, well, I may as well build to the center of the house to make it looks better. That was the whole reason.
Okay, thank you.
anyone else on the board have any questions of this
Yeah,
witness?
I do. You started by saying that you were here before.
Yeah, I
And
was.
what were the variants that you requested, and what were the ones you received?
Back then, there was I believe it was 2 variants. One is this portico, because even though, I'm sorry, even though I was not going to, before the house, I don't have a portico. I have just the steps, yeah. So my variance was to build a portico on top of the steps. So that was being approved.
The roof, the portico
Yeah,
roof.
yeah, the portico, the roof, I'm sorry.
And did that roof have columns too?
No, the roof, yeah, the roof was built, supposed to have a
The one that
column
got
to support
approved was
the
the-
front, yes.
And I'm just, so these drawings that we're looking at were not the drawings that were submitted for the original approval, because the original approval had the proposed portico shifted over.
Right.
The original portico was just built on top of the steps. I was not
So
trying
these
to
are
move.
new drawings.
This is a new drawing. This is a new drawing to,
So why do
to
they have-
relocate the
Okay.
portico and the steps.
Sure, well, why do, if that's the case, why do they have the, and you know, when you have drawings submitted and they're dated, why does it say zoning review is on this? Wouldn't that not be there?
Sorry, there was a couple of versions of this. Back in December, when I was trying to do this, I put into the framing, we had a framing failing. So we were trying to put this as part of the framing of the house. We thought the portico and as part of the framing. So the architect was actually put in as a framing update. So we submit as a framing update back then. Then we learned that we can't do this as a framing update. So this was a new submission.
So this was never really submitted to the zoning review. I'm just saying.
This is the first time it's submitted
Okay,
to the
'cause
zoning.
it says it was submitted, so that to me is inconsistent. Is that true?
Eileen,
Let's swear
you
the
on.
witness.
Yes. The survey, the proposed site plan that you see here is what was submitted for the first appearance before the board. She received variance approval for the shaded area along the right of the side yard setback variance and a compliance side yard. The portico, at the time, only needed relief because it was being built over an existing stoop that was greater than 4 feet deep. So she was required to variance. She asked if she, after the fact, could move it over. I explained that in order to move it over, since it required variance initially, now she's building a stoop, she couldn't just move it, she would have to go back to the board. So I think her contractor just got a little overzealous and kind of built it, and then we stopped it, and I said, we need to go back to the board, and we need to make sure that they're okay with the new stoop.
In the new location.
Are there any other questions from board members? Is there anyone in the audience who has a question for this witness? Is there anyone in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application? I hear none. I see none. I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, I have something to say about this, but I'll hold off until anyone else has something to say.
I would say that the rationale for why this is being brought to us, I don't know, but I think I look at a house and I'm like, the door should be in the center, so it's a mistake that was made and it's being corrected, so why not correct it?
I agree.
I think the portico is too large for the house. I don't have a problem with the door being in center. I think it projects too far. It's extremely deep. Most of the overhangs in the neighborhood are not that deep. And that's why it's in the zoning that you need variance if you put columns after a certain depth. So I think it's out of character. And I also find it really difficult that when a project comes after it's been built, like why is it coming now? Why was it not coming before? And there's another thing. When I walked around the backyard and the deck, which is noted as 12.67 feet from the rear side yard, I guess it's a side yard. I didn't have a tape with me, but I don't think it was that far.
So I have a question. Was this portico approved earlier?
The portico was approved at a different location.
But
It
this
did.
portico was
Inside.
not approved.
This was
It
not
was if you look at the plan, the portico was approved in the location where the dotted line is. That was where the original stoop was.
But I guess what I'm confused about is, was it this portico that was approved for over here?
You mean the same
Yes,
depth
the
and
same
width?
depth and
Eileen would
width.
have,
That was 7 feet deep, the initial one.
Yeah, so that was already approved, so now it's
Right.
literally, we're just
The
asking
only
to.
difference, if I understood the
Is-
testimony, is the width is one foot
1 feet
wider.
wider, yeah.
But not the depth,
Not
how
the
far
depth.
out
Yeah.
it's coming.
And it's moved
And it's
6
moved
feet.
over.
Right. Normally, I would look at a variance of this magnitude and say that it's too much. But in this particular case, moving it to the right, as you're facing the house, takes it further away from the only people who could possibly be affected by it, who are the people who live next door, on the left. They're not here tonight. I assume that the reason they're not here is that this portico has now been shifted to the right and basically can't be seen from their house. The people who live on the house on the right live so far around that bend that they can't really see this either. And there's nobody who lives across the street. It's a wide open street area. So in terms of the effect on the neighbors, and we always have to be concerned with the two negative criteria, there's no doubt in my mind that the first one passes easily. That is, that there's no substantial detriment to the public good, meaning the neighborhood. In terms of, is there a substantial detriment to the zone plan? I don't see it. I think that this is a no-brainer for me. I would vote yes on the matter.
So what about the extra foot in width? Are you okay with
I
that?
don't think that does.
Do we have photographs of the original portico? 'Cause I live near here and I don't remember it.
Pardon me?
So
Was
there
there
wasn't an
originally-
original portico, there
It
was
was
a
never
stoop.
built? It was a stoop. Did it have an overhang?
No, there was not a portico, there was just the steps.
Yeah, just steps. And the door was really tricked because over the years, so we're going to fix the door anyway, but when the door was taken down, there was zero foundation to it. We don't even know how the door was just standing there so long. It's just so many challenges with this project. And also, like you said, actually the straight curve
There's
to
a
the,
big
yeah,
curve
it's
there.
actually, right now, what I'm moving is better for the zoning. I'm actually more deep into the house
Farther
than to
back.
the street.
Right.
Yeah, further back.
What's the house?
Okay, we've closed the public portion of the meeting, so, board members, is there a motion in this case?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Beth,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Segal,
No.
Steve Toger,
Yes.
Jessica Butt,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. You've got your 4 votes, and you've got your portico.
Thank you so much, board member. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if I can find my agenda.
Please come back.
Is Lander next? Yes, Steve is back. I don't know where my agenda is. I always end up losing it. Lander?
Yes, I do. Victor Lander.
Eileen, the notice has been resolved? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for allowing me to present my case in front of you. We live in Short Hills for 35 years, and as we are getting younger, and there is some difficulty to live in the house that was designed and built, I believe, in the early 30s. So that presents. That's why we are asking for permission to do a couple changes in the outline of the house. There is a small room on the second floor, small bedroom on the second floor, and attached to it bathroom that has a highly sloped ceiling. But it's a little bit more than 3 feet height at the edge and near the wall. So we, when the bathroom is also attached to the same wall. So there is a bedroom and the bathroom using that wall as a background. And when we use the bathroom, it is the bathtub especially, it's getting more difficult for the young lady here to get in and get out of the bathtub without helping her. So we're asking permission to raise up the roof a little bit for about 3 feet. So it will be normal height in the bedroom and the bathroom. You can see pictures in the attached file. Here is the house. It's a Tudor in the Wyndham Road. This is the part of the roof view from outside with the slope that affects the bedroom and the bathroom underneath of that roof. So that roof I'm asking you to allow us to raise a little bit. This is actually a bathtub with a slope ceiling because of that roof. And this is the bedroom with the same roof. You can see it in your files. That's the first request. And the second request is that we have on the first floor, we have a room that is built on the covered porch, and it is strangely shaped with a large windowsill. So that actually a picture of that covered porch, which is converted to a room with a very large windowsill. So the outside view of that it's actually a backyard. I don't know if I have it. I think I attached it, but I don't.
Yes, there's a photograph
Yeah, there's
attached.
photograph, yeah,
You're
because
talking about this photograph, correct?
Correct, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You can see it, yeah. I'm asking your permission to increase the floor to match the windowsill.
So you want to extend the rear wall of the house all the way down to the ground?
Exactly.
Which adds some square footage to the
Yes,
house.
it's about 1.3% more than existing use. It's adding 1.3% to existing use.
Anything more?
That's it.
Board members, questions?
Could you say again how high you're going to raise that roof? How many feet?
About 3 feet.
3 feet?
But it's still, the slope will be preserved. It will be sloped roof.
Okay.
Architect did all the calculations. You can see on that chart that there is a slope.
Any other questions for the witness?
I'll just have one more. Are there going to be the same material to match the house?
Yes, we passed through historical society. We presented different
Okay.
materials. Yeah, so we're okay with that.
Okay.
I have one more question. If and when this work is done, do any trees have to be taken down?
No,
But some branches are gonna have to be cut off.
maybe branches are a little bit cut off, but trees will not. We checked it out.
I'm focused now on the greenery between your property and the gentleman who owns the property
On the
to
right,
your left.
my left.
As you're facing your
Yes,
house,
yes.
around the corner.
Yeah, we talked to them.
My question to you is, are any of those trees evergreens?
Yes, I believe they are evergreens. Yeah, they're like a pine trees, right? Evergreens, yeah.
Yeah, everywhere there.
Any other questions from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions for this witness? Come forward. Questions only now, not a statement. There'll be plenty of time for a statement. You have to come up to the microphone, give your name and your property address, and where your property is located in conjunction to this property.
Okay, thank you. My name is Victor Rachkovsky, that's Raczkowski, and our property is at 11 Wyndham Road. So our property is adjacent to the Landers property. As you enter Wyndham Road, we're the first property and they're the second property up the street.
So you're on the right.
You're the first property on the right as you
That's
come
correct.
in to Wyndham.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
And so I guess I have two questions. My first question has to do with whether any of your plans have taken into account drainage for the property.
Yes, the drainage of the property will be accounted with the proper design of the spouts. New spouts will be installed, and because the wall will be moved, I think he's concerned about the balcony and the
Yes.
part. Yeah, no. Yeah. We will redesign, of course, properly all the new spouts, so it will be sloped out towards the street.
Into the microphone.
Yes, the new water spouts will be from the roof, will be redirected to the slope. We have a very highly sloped property, so it will be redirected away to the street, not of course to the neighbor property.
Your next question, sir.
Thank you. My second question has to do with the plan. In the description of that room, it uses the windowsill abbreviation, and then it has CANT after it. Does that mean cantilevered? Is that what that refers to?
Yes, cantilever.
So the windowsill then is cantilevered from something above. Is that correct or no?
No, it's cantilever from the below. It kind of
Oh, I see.
the windows
Okay.
are sitting on the cantilevers.
Thank you very much.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application? Please be seated, sir. Now you must be sworn under oath, and you can both speak, but you'll have to be sworn first.
Oops, I'm sorry. I do. Okay, my name is Victor Rachkovsky, that's Raczkowski, and this is my wife.
You want me to stay? And I'm Julia Rachkovsky.
Julia, Julia?
Yes.
Thank you.
And our address is 11 Wyndham Road. So good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to make a statement. My name is Victor Rachkovsky. I'm here with my wife, Julia, and we live next door to the Landers. Our address is 11 Wyndham Road. The Landers have been fine neighbors, and we enjoy speaking with them, but we do not, however, support the variances that they have proposed. And so in order to set the stage, there are two main things that we would first like to highlight about our property. I'll go into a bit more detail later, but I hope this will give you a better understanding of some of our perspectives. First, our property, like the Landers property, it's very small. It's about 1/6 of an acre, for that particular area. Second, our property sits downhill from the Landers property. So the second floor of our property actually looks into the first floor of the Landers property. And therefore, changes that are made to structures on their property have a disproportionate effects on ours. They're magnified. And I think what Julie's showing here is a picture of our property in relation to theirs. You can see Hobart Avenue. We've given a copy of this to the secretary.
We need to mark
If
that.
you want us to circulate it so the board can see it, you need to mark it. Is it a tax map? Can you tell?
Tax map and
Is it the same one we have in the packet? I
Wait, you're holding several documents, not just that document.
Tax map and 8 photos. This tax map has their property highlighted.
Okay, so it's a tax map and 8 photographs that you want us to see.
Yes, please.
All right,
So
let's-
that will mark as A1?
Yes.
Yeah, and the tax map, again, it just shows our property, which is highlighted in yellow.
Actually, we should have, the tax map should be A1 and the.
8 photos can be
the
8.
8 photos, A2.
A1 for the tax
Not
map.
A1, it's O1.
O1.
O1
And then the 8 photos will be O2.
O2. So if you hand them to the secretary, she can mark them. Do you have a set there?
No, pass,
We need
we
a
need
set
you to give a set to Mary. That set in your hand, are you giving to Mary or no?
I'm sorry, I only made 2. I didn't,
So Eileen, you're gonna have to
Sorry about that.
circulate that for the board to see. And then we'll get it back to you.
We're sorry, we didn't realize we needed to make
That's okay.
copies. But not to lose the train of thought, so, you know, we have a small property, as the Landers do, and our property sits downhill from theirs. So because we're downhill, changes made to our property can affect what we see when we look out of our first floor windows, or our second floor windows, or from our backyard. Changes made to the property can affect the drainage onto our property. And changes made to their property can create a need for privacy shrubbery on our property. And all these things collectively, you know, suggest that changes made to their property can affect the value of ours. So now to go into these in a bit more detail. First, the size. We have a small property size. And we're bounded on Hobart Avenue on one side, Wyndham Road on the other. And these roads constrain our property. We have a next door neighbor, of course, on Hobart, and the Landers are our neighbors on Wyndham Road. So our property is zoned as an R4 neighborhood, but our property acreage is small. It's about 1/6 of an acre, consistent with an R6 neighborhood, as is the Landers property. And we have a small backyard that's just about the width of our garage, and Julie is showing you the picture of that. Now, the reason our lot size is important is because our home sits close to our neighbors' properties. There's very little space on these small lots to buffer the impact on our property from what our neighbors do on theirs. So our backyard is already overshadowed by a 3-story addition on one neighboring adjacent property. So this is a property on Hobart Avenue. It's not the Landers. But this is what we're facing, and this significantly crosses the setback line. So Julie's just showing a number of photos of that, and one I think was with the snow. I didn't see what she was showing. What you see actually when the snow takes down one of the privacy shrubs that was put up.
on our property. The privacy shrub is on our property.
Okay, so we're concerned about what the Landers are proposing. They've already built a second floor patio on the top of the room that we're discussing on the back here, with the cantilevered windows. And here's a picture from our patio that shows you what we see over the foliage, and that's our bench down in the corner. So this is looking from our property up at the Landers. And then here's another close-up photo behind that, showing detail from our patio. We therefore oppose the Landers' proposal zoning variance to modify a room to infill the area beneath the windowsill to create additional floor area. Doing so would both cross the setback line and it would further increase the floor to area ratio with detrimental effects on our property. Second, just focusing on the uphill aspect of our property, this has several implications on ours. So the Landers' property is uphill from ours. So changes to their property can affect the drainage onto ours. For example, there's already a retaining wall on the Landers' property that's starting to lean onto our property that needs to be repaired. And we have pictures of drainage from the main roof that's directed toward our property. We also have a picture of another gutter from the second floor patio that drains toward our property. So if, as proposed, the Landers fill in the space below the sill there will be less permeable space for water to be absorbed. That will increase the drainage into our yard, which is downhill from theirs. And drainage from the landowner's property should be drained to Wyndham Road, or at the very least, managed on their own property. Again, we have substantial concerns about the proposal to increase the floor-to-area ratio of the property. I have two additional sort of peripheral comments about the application, but I think they're relevant. First, the application states that the backyard is completely screened by greenery from the immediate neighbors. That's on page 4 of the application. It's item number 15. That's the statement that's made. So that the backyard is completely screened by the greenery from the immediate neighbors. We do not believe that this is a legitimate argument in support of the application. It's important to note that the shrubbery is planted on our property almost exclusively, very little on the landowner's property to shield our home from theirs. We have a small lot as it is, and this shrubbery on our property further decreases the available space that we have left to use. The shrubbery has grown considerably from when we purchased our home, and it has killed the grass. We have therefore considered removing the shrubbery or some portion of it. But regardless of the presence of the shrubbery as a privacy shield today, there's no guarantee of any presence of shrubbery as a privacy shield for tomorrow. My second comment about the application has to do with the description of the actual room that is being modified. And these are items number 11 and number 16 on the application. Those are found on pages 3 and 4 of the application. They describe the room as being of an irregular shape, or it says that it's a covered porch with a strange and irregular shape. In fact, the room is rectangular. What perhaps is unusual about the room is not the shape, but the windowsills. So that's really just a clarification. I just wanted the board to be aware of that. Finally, we're not sure why or when the porch in question, this is the room in the back, was closed in and made to have cantilevered windowsills, or when the second floor patio was built on top of it. It seems that the architectural changes that were made are now being considered as undesirable, and the landowners are now seeking to remedy that. But the landowner's proposed remedy is not in accord with the Millburn setback ordinances, and it further increases the floor-to-area ratio, which are already beyond the limits. But regardless of how the decision was made to close in the sun porch with cantilevered sills, an alternative remedy would be to return the room to its original size when it was a sun porch. This would unlikely violate the setback ordinances, and it would decrease, not increase, the floor-to-area ratio, allowing for more permeable soil. Again, these are small parcels of land, and we'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to present the perspectives.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application?
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Can we ask-
Sir, come back, please. One of the board members has a question for you.
So, regarding the increasing the height of the roof line, if the shrubbery were if the greenery and were improved, would that help in that situation, or would it not make any difference at all?
Okay, just to be clear, we didn't address the raising of the roof line issue at all. That is actually on the other side of their property. That's what you were referring to
Okay, you're only
previously.
concerned about. Okay.
We're on the, that's on the, well, as you go around the corner, that's where that roof line is raised. We didn't comment on that at all.
Okay. You're only concerned about the first floor change.
And the shrubbery between our property and theirs, which is largely on ours.
Thank you.
I actually have a question as well. When you speak to that this change to the sunroom would decrease the permeable space. It looks like already, if they extend that down, it looks like that's already a paved cement area underneath. So it doesn't look like that change would actually increase the impermeable space at all. It would just simply bring a wall down, and that wouldn't, impact the actual footprint in that respect?
Well, that to me doesn't appear to, I don't know if that's the foundation or what. It just appears to be some sort of concrete. It's not permanent, but certainly if you drop the wall down, that would be a permanent decrease in the permeable space. So you're right, I don't think the concrete would be permeable. But it seems to be, that seems to be something temporary, not a component of the actual structure.
So is the primary issue then one of the drainage issue, or is the primary issue really that of the visual aspects?
Both.
Both.
Very, very, very much both. And we tried to give.
And there are currently drainage issues that are a problem already?
Well, we don't have any grass on that side because we think the previous people who had the home before us put very nice shrubbery in there, but now the shrubbery is completely overgrown. And again, we were thinking of taking it out, but that works as a barrier because right now the gutters are pointed, just toward the house, and they take, I'm not sure because I haven't been over there, but I think that they take a large load of the back, the posterior roof comes down toward our house. So if we start taking out trees, we're not exactly sure what impact that's going to have. Our house doesn't have a sump pump in it, but we think that the previous people who were in our house, they're the ones that put the skip laurels in there. And we think that once they go, as I said, we lost all of our grass now. So we're trying to figure out how we can get the grass back, prevent soil erosion, and keep everything in place. But clearly the shrubs have overgrown the space that they're in. And I didn't take a photograph of it, but we have completely sheared off our side of the trees. It's all gone, and it looks really bad, but we were just going to try to prune our side and keep it there. If that doesn't work and we can't get the grass to come back, though, we will be selectively removing, trying not to lose that barrier, of course, because it's very nice, but it's just, the property is just really getting overgrown. And in a similar fashion, our property had the burden from the other property on the other side. It was built so close to our fence in the backyard that there's no way that they could put any shrubbery on their house to cover it up. So the burden fell on us to cover up that 3-story structure outside the kitchen window. So our property, which is already very small because we sit on the corner, and I think there's certain setbacks if you sit on the corner, our house is kind of pushed into the corner. And then we have this big shrubbery to try to block this big 3-story structure out the kitchen window, which you can see there. And we really wanted to make sure that we don't end up with another situation like that where we're trying to take this little tiny space that we have on our property and somehow block these really high additions that are being done. So that's really what we're trying to do. I don't know where the people were who lived at 11 Wyndham Road when that addition was put on that backs up to our kitchen window. I don't know where maybe they were on vacation in August and that's whenever it was approved, but that is really an eyesore. And we just really wanted to come down and make sure that that doesn't happen on the other side because we have Hobart and Wyndham on the other sides of our house. And we love our house, but the property is just really getting to be a mess.
Any other questions of either of these witnesses? Once again, is there anyone else in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application? Any closing comments?
I have a couple questions I want to ask Eileen.
Go ahead.
Eileen, it looks like,
Eileen, I want to remind you, you're still under oath.
They're talking about adding 90 square feet to floor area ratio. So the additional square footage, that is not going to generate the need for a drainage review by the township engineer, is it? Okay. Not unless the board were to impose that as a condition of approval. Building coverage is remaining unchanged. I'm assuming that's because you measure from the cantilever. Okay.
The raised roof is not an issue with regard to building coverage because it's just being altered.
Right. Okay.
I have a question for Eileen. That little patio that's on the second floor, is that covered in floor area ratio?
The little balcony.
The balcony.
The floor area ratio?
The floor area
No.
ratio.
It's not covered.
I'll close the public portion of the meeting. All right, board members, I'd like to just make a couple of observations, if I might, to start the discussion here. I was there twice on this property, and I sought and received permission from the next door neighbor around on the other side to walk
To the
around.
left, to the left.
To the left, to walk around the back of his property. I didn't see any evergreens there at all. Now, Mr. Lander disputes that, but everything I saw between the neighbor's property and the Lander's property looked to me as if come October, those leaves are gonna be on the ground, and there'll be nothing to block the view of those roof changes from the neighbor around on that side of the property. I want to remind board members also that personal issues are not a basis for granting relief from the zoning requirements. So the fact that a bathroom is too small or that people have to bend over to get into a particular room are not grounds for granting variances. The last comment that I have is that it appears when you look at this application that the increase in the FAR is very small. It's 1.5%. Let's remember, however, that the maximum allowed in the zone is 26%, and this property is already virtually twice that, at 52%, 51.9%. So that increase of 1.5% gets you up, if granted, would get you up to 53.4% in a zone where the maximum is 26%. People often make an argument that, well, our property is undersized for the zone, and this property clearly is undersized for the zone. That, however, in my mind, does not equate to an argument that you can load up the FAR just because the property is undersized. I think that given the proximity of the two houses, one on either side of the property in question, and the fact that those properties are also very small, I think my sense is that to grant these variances would be intrusive, and I think that the first of the two negative criteria would not be met. That is to say, I think these variance grants would constitute a substantial detriment to the public good, meaning to the immediate neighbors.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I know that neighborhood very well. It is very tight and it's very charming. It probably would be better to park your car in Hobart and walk around that little neighborhood because it's so difficult to navigate a car. And I think that home has had other additions to it in the past, so I would not be inclined to support the application.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this?
Could I just ask, I hadn't visited the property also, it seems, I see the point with respect to the sunroom, but with respect to the changing of the roof, is it really that big? Is the changing of the roof angle, is it really that major a difference? I mean, in terms of how it's gonna, having looked at it and trying to imagine what it would look like, it didn't seem like that particular change would be all that intrusive.
From my sense, I tried to look at it both last week or 3 weeks ago and again today, without those trees there, without the screening provided by those trees. I don't think any of those trees are evergreens, and I tried to envisage what that roof line would look like from the neighbor to the, I guess, I don't know, is that the north?
No.
I guess it is. And I would, my sense is that this is just adding too much to too small a house.
Would it change your mind if they, for that one portion, if they replace the trees with evergreens that were tall and could screen it
I don't know
better?
that you could get an evergreen in there that tall. That property in the back is up, yeah, it's up, what, I don't know.
It
Gotta
looks
be-
like there's only like 6 feet. The setback there ranges from 6 feet at the rear corner of the house to like 11 feet.
And it's also upgrade in the back. You couldn't plant, you'd have to plant a 25-foot tree there.
That addition is what's accounting for the floor area ratio?
No, the floor area ratio is the other.
Is the
is
infill on the
infill,
other
yeah.
side.
Right. Yeah,
So
change-
the ones that were on the left, the building height, that is for the side yard setback at the second floor?
The other one, the sun,
Sunroom is for the other two.
It would be voted on separately, these, right?
You can if you want.
Doesn't it have to be?
Pardon me, I'm
No,
sorry.
you can
I
vote
didn't
on
hear
them
you.
Can they be
separately.
voted on separately?
Yeah, sure you can.
You know, if it's a sense of the board that they'd like to vote separately, we can take each of these variances and deal with them separately. Why don't we do the FAR first, because that requires,
Just maybe explain to the applicant that
Yeah.
if they go forward with the vote just because they didn't have
Mhm.
an next attorney
Fine.
here.
Yeah, we normally do that.
Yeah.
the FAR variance, which is one of the three you need, requires
It applies.
5 affirmative votes. And we normally would vote on the FAR variance first. That would deal with what you want to do on the, as you're facing your house, on the right rear. So is there a motion?
Wait. I think what we want you to understand is if the board goes to a vote on your application as it's been presented, and if the board votes no, if the board denies variance relief, if you wanted to put anything on the house, you would have to change this application substantially in order to come back and ask again. Because there is a doctrine in the law called res judicata, which means the matter's already been decided. So you could not come back unless you substantially change what you're asking for. If you ask the board to vote tonight. Some applicants like to say, I don't want you to vote tonight, I want to go back to the drawing board with my architect and see if I could minimize this, or if I could make some changes that would make it more palatable to the board and to the neighbors. And the board is often inclined to allow people to do that. But that's a decision you have to make. Do you go to a vote and potentially get a negative vote where you're denied the opportunity to build the addition? Or do you ask the board to give you time to go back to your architect?
May I ask you?
Please come to the
Come to the
microphone.
mic.
May I ask you to vote separately, and I will postpone the vote on the first floor.
So in other words, you want the board to only vote on the side yard setback variance for the second story.
Correct.
which deals with raising the height of the roof by
yeah,
3
because it's
feet.
really most necessary.
Okay, is there a motion on, the applicant has indicated that they would like to carry the case to another date, and we'll deal with what that date is. For the variances listed on attachment E, if you guys want to turn to it, the second and third variances. That is what they don't want us to vote on tonight. What they're asking for is whether we would vote on the side yard setback variance, which deals with the proposal relating to the roof on the left side of the left rear of the property as you face the property. So we're only going to have one vote tonight, and that is on the side yard setback on the left rear of the property. Is there a motion on that variance? Up or down, either way?
I moved to vote on the side yard setback listed first on application 3694, that being the 6.13 foot setback.
Is that it to approve?
Is that a motion to approve?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second was Joy.
Mary McNabb,
Yes.
Jody Sharma,
Yes.
Joyce Siegel,
Yes.
Steve Toger,
No.
Wolfgang Torres,
Yes.
Jessica Glad,
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
No.
It passes. The result is 5 in favor, so that variance passes. Now, on the other two, for the floor area ratio and the first floor side yard setback, that's the sunroom side.
Yeah.
That's the one, do you want to, you have two choices. You can withdraw that application and ask the board, you're just withdrawing that. Or you can ask the board to carry it to a new date so you can go back and talk to your architect and see if you could do something.
Yeah, I would like to do the second.
Okay. So we need to give you a new
What
hearing
is the
date.
date?
September
September
16th.
16th.
Now,
Right.
let me just tell you something. If you go back to the architect and you come up with some other alternative solution, you will not need to renotice to come back on September 16th unless you create the need for another variance or you increase, well, how did he notice it? Did he specify the dimensions? We just want to check the notice because I want to see if you would have to make any.
Because we spent second notice, we send it out.
Right, and so I don't know if you want to have to do that. We want to see what it says.
No, he just referenced the section.
Perfect.
He didn't need to mention it.
Perfect. So those two variances, as long as those two variances are the only two that you still need, you would not need to renotice. But if your architect comes up with some alternative solution that requires a new variance, then you would have to notice.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, let me just make an announcement here. On this case, the variances that were sought by the applicant, which are listed as the first and second variances on attachment E, side yard setback, I'm sorry.
Second and third.
Well, I don't, is that a side?
That's the first floor side yard setback
Yeah, first floor side yard setback of.
and FAR,
Of 15 feet,
right.
and the FAR increase of 1.5%. Eileen, would you, those are being carried and will be dealt with by this board on September 16th, 2019, at 7 p.m. in this room. If you're not ready by then, speak to Eileen and we can call the case that night and give you a further adjournment if you need it. Eileen, I'm a little Can you take a look for one moment at attachment E? Under extent of variance on the right-hand side, it says increase 3.2 foot wall and,
Yeah, he referenced just the footage rather than the square footage. So he didn't put the extent of the variance in the term that we, square footage wise.
Right.
He put that he's extending the floor.
but is that second variance listed there on on attachment E, a side yard setback variance? Because if it is, then what is listed under extent of variance?
Well, that's what Eileen
makes-
called it out as, side yard setback.
But it makes no,
On the first floor required 15 feet, proposed 11.3.
That's how she called it out.
And then 22 feet on the second floor, proposed is 6.1 feet, that's the left side.
Correct.
Yeah.
so
So he actually.
what I'm saying that writing in the box on the far, under the column that says extent of variance should be ignored.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
All right, board members, if you're looking at attachment E, I'm going to suggest you cross out the writing that appears in the far right-hand box, because it doesn't make any sense at all. What is the required setback there, Eileen,
On the first floor,
on the first floor?
15 feet.
15. Okay. Everybody understand what we're doing here?
Not
No, you
exactly.
don't.
No.
Okay, well,
I just trying to find
You could, if you go in
Yeah,
and
I
talk
will
to
stop by
Eileen,
with Eileen, yeah.
she'll,
I know
she'll
what to
tell
do.
you
all
what's
right,
going on.
let me explain what has happened here. What these folks want to do on the left rear of the property has been approved. They needed one variance, and by a vote of 5-2, they got that variance.
To raise the roof.
That's a side yard setback variance where they needed 22 feet, and they proposed 6.13 feet?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's been approved. What they want to do on the rear right of the property has not been approved, it has not been voted on. They need two variances there, an FAR variance, floor area ratio variance, and they need a 3.7 foot side yard setback variance. Is that correct? Yeah, 3.7 and 11.3 comes to 15.
Can I ask a procedural question?
Sure.
Mike,
Come to
sworn
the
in.
microphone and identify yourself, please. I think we all know who you are, but let's follow the rules.
You need my address too? Lynn Ranieri, 94 Oakview Terrace. I was discussing with Allison a small procedural matter. If the applicant comes back with a revision to the first floor plan, do they have to go before the HPC again? It's a designated site in the historic
They
district.
probably will.
Probably, but can't give you legal opinion on it.
All we were wanting.
You have an attorney.
So we do or we don't?
You probably will have to go
You
back to them.
probably
You're gonna
will,
have
but
to review
it
what the
depends
approval
on-
is.
Depends on what you come up with and what their attorney says.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and we're gonna move now to our next case, which is 66 Minnesota.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Mark Don, D-A-H-N. I'm the
I'm
attorney.
sorry.
Mark Don,
G-A-H-N.
D-A-H-N. Attorney for 66 Minnesink LLC, which is application number CAL 3703-19. To my right, I have Jonathan Wilf, who is the managing member of the LLC. I'm going to yield the floor to him if that's okay.
Hello. I do. Jonathan Wilf, Jonathan Wilf, Frank. Managing member of 66 Minnesink LLC. We are here in front of you all again tonight to discuss the final few variance relief we need to complete our project that came before this committee, I think 18 months ago or so, maybe a little more. The majority of which relate to the same issue that we had back 2.5 years ago, that these are two properties with a property line that goes along the driveway of the existing house. Additionally, there's a need for relief for moving of a carriage house, which is already it's a non-conforming use as it is, but the changes will make that less so. Additionally, we request relief to put up a gate at the entrance to the property, as well as restore the piers that are at the entrance to the property as is. I will now yield the floor to my architect, John James, who will then introduce any other people that will need to speak, Brian Hirsch, our landscape architect, and Rich Keller, who I'm sure you all know.
Do you want to swear us all in at once, or?
Sure.
I do. John James, architect.
Richard Keller. Brian Hirsch, landscape architect.
Good evening. We're here for 66 and 68 Minnesink Road.
Mr. James, your credentials first, please.
Okay. Registered in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I'm the principal in a 9-person firm specializing in renovation and historic preservation. I'm a member of the American Institute of Architects, have a Bachelor of Science of Architecture at University of Virginia and a Master's from Columbia University. All my licenses are currently in order, and I've appeared before this board and approximately 50 others in the state of New Jersey in the last 25 years.
Your qualifications as an architect are accepted by this board.
Thank you very much. We're here to talk about 66 and 68 Minnesink Road. It was built in 1902. It was originally known as Charlotte. It's in a Tudor revival style. It is a designated property in the Short Hills Historic Park. It's a large property on 2 adjacent lots that total almost 3 acres. And it's a private property with beautiful terrace gardens and fountains. And we've been working very hard with Jonathan and Brian and Rich to restore it and bring it back to its former glory. It's been in a series of deterioration before that, and that's involved a lot of changes to the roofs, to the walls, to exterior materials, to the gardens, and we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. There are 3 main things that we want to talk to you as the zoning board about. This is our second presentation for you, and we're making some minor changes to things that were previously approved. We've also met with Historic Preservation Commission on both occasions as well, and we received unanimous approval from them at their meeting in May. And the drawings that we're showing you tonight are identical to the ones that we presented to the Historic Preservation Commission, and they're also identical to what you have in your packages, including the photographs, etc. So there are 3 main things we want to talk about. The first is that we want to make some alterations to the existing carriage house to improve it visually and to add an indoor therapy pool behind it. The second thing we need to do is that the foundations for the carriage house are totally rotted out and are no longer functional, and we've had collapses in part of it and at the foundation. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to lift the carriage house, and we're gonna have to dig out under it to create a new foundation that we'll set it back down on. And while we're doing this, we're proposing to also relocate it 8 feet to the side. So if you're looking at it from the front property, it'll move to the right-hand side, and it'll be moved 8 feet further away from the main house. On the landscape plan that you have in your package, you can see here is Winsink Road here, the long driveway that comes in here. We have the main house here on the left and the carriage house on the right. And we're proposing to move that carriage house 8 feet this way.
Why do you need to do that?
And there, well, several reasons. One is the two houses are fairly tight together, and we want to improve the turning radius that's into the garage, so that that's a much safer thing. It also allows us to mitigate the grading differential between the two properties. One of them is entered at a basement level, the other one's entered at the main level, and it allows us a little bit more of a transition space to go down that grade and that range. It also allows us to create a rectangular motor courtyard at that point, and so for all of those reasons, we'd like to move it. In terms of moving it, the main point about this property is that you have a very, very deep property, but the houses are set back an incredible distance from the property, from the front yard line. So it's 275 feet to the current carriage house, which doesn't allow us very much room at all here in the back. So in terms of the variances that we're requiring, moving the carriage house actually 8 feet in this direction mitigates and improves every one of the single variances that we're asking you for tonight. It's a minor, but it moves it off of what the back property line is. And the hardship in this case is that it's an existing non-conforming location on the lot. It's an existing non-conforming lot width, and we're left with only very little space in which to work. When you're working on historic houses and things like that, you're trying to do an addition that you can't see from the street, so you really want it, and that looks like the house, and you want to put it in the backyard. And at this point, on this property, there's only one location where we can put our addition. But I'll explain to you why I think that can be approved and the mitigating circumstances relative to all the variances. And then the third thing we want to do is we want to rebuild the existing front gates, and we want to put in a security fencing gate as well. So to accomplish these three items that we want to do, it requires 5 variances. And the first variance is a side yard setback variance. And that's what Jonathan alluded to. There's a property line that runs right between the two properties, and we need a side yard variance for the distance from the carriage house to the side yard that's between the two buildings. Now, it's being moved 8 feet further than it used to be. It used to be a 9-foot range, and it's now at 16. It's one of those technical variances that you previously approved last time, and it's a variance for side yard that doesn't affect any of the other neighbors because it's the side yard between the main house and the carriage house. Technically, we have a large property here with a main house and a carriage house, but it's actually 2 separate properties with a principal building on each property. We also need a rear yard setback variance for putting anything in the backyard of the carriage house because the existing carriage house is non-conforming. In fact, most of the carriage house is currently within the backyard. And we also need, because of the required rear yard setback, we need a rear yard unoccupied variance for the carriage house as well. And the last thing we need for the carriage house is a steep slope variance. And that's due to the area of the hill here that we're going to be cutting into with a retaining wall. We're on approximately a 1 acre property. We're required to stay below 1,000 square feet. We need a variance for 1,647 square feet. So it's a very minor overage for a property of this size. And normally, when you're looking at a variance like that, you're worried about the runoff that goes to neighboring properties. But in this case, it is a slope that slopes back down to the carriage house, and I will show you in the photographs. So it's something that's only internal to our property and does not have any other impact on any of the adjacent neighbors.
Can I see
Yes, it's right here, beside the carriage house. And I'll show you some of the photographs as well.
you say you're gonna change the slope on it?
Can you?
Wait,
can
you can come sit in these,
sit in
this
these
seat
two
here,
chairs, please?
then you'll be able to see.
Are you gonna change the slope?
We're not going to change the slope. We're going to affect the slope because we're going to rebuild the retaining wall around the building, and we're going to disturb the slope.
You'll have an
The top of the-
opportunity to ask questions.
The
that-
top of the
yeah.
slope and the bottom of the slope are going to remain the same. And then the last one is we need a variance for the fence and the gate posts in the front yard. So I want to go through the site plan and showed you where all of those instances are, and just reinforce that the hardship is due to where the houses are located on the property, the distance that they're set back from the street, the fact that they're already in the rear yard setbacks that are required for the property. And so we're very limited in terms of the scope of what we can do. So what's really the beauty of the site is also the hardship for the site. And currently we would be moving the house 7 feet closer to the front yard lot line, from 274 feet to 267 feet. So that minimizes a part of the variances that we're talking about in terms of the rear yard and in terms of the rear yard setback. Now, I took photographs of this site to kind of show you what we're talking about here so that you can see. These are all in your packets, and we submitted these 8 photographs individually. We have a view of the front carriage house. This is just when we were starting on the property, and you can see it here. There's a small lean-to to the right. We're planning to take that lean-to off and extend the carriage house so that it matches exactly. That was not an original part of the structure. The fireplace was not original. So we're proposing to take that off and to extend to that point. You can see here's the back of the carriage house as well. You can see here showing that lean-to here with the fireplace that we're going to remove and just extend the existing shape of the carriage house. This shows the garage area of the carriage house. So these are the photographs from when we started the project, and you can see everything grown up around the house. These are photos taken recently that show the current conditions in the house. So you can see where we've done site grading and we've removed the existing driveway in front. And you can see that the rim joist for the carriage house is totally missing underneath the garage. One of the site supers calls this animal kingdom underneath here. Because as soon as it gets dust, there's goings on there. You can see it's rotted completely all the way around. There's some timber underneath there, completely rotted as well. So we're gonna have to totally replace the footings and foundations. So that requires us to lift it. We're gonna lift it up and put a brand new full basement foundation underneath that. And then you can see